Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and in this follow along, we're going to set up a studio with an Azure Machine Learning service so that it will be the basis for all the follow alongs here. So what I want you to do is go all the way to the top here and type in Azure Machine Learning, and you're looking for this one that looks like a science bottle here, and we'll go ahead and create ourselves our Machine Learning studio. And so I'll create a new one here, and I'll just say My Studio. And we'll hit OK, and we'll name the workspace. So we'll say my workplace. We'll maybe say ML workplace here. For containers, there are none, so it will create all that stuff for us. So I'll hit create and create. And so what we're going to do here is just wait for that creation, okay? All right, so after a short little wait there, it looks like our studio is set up. So we'll go to that resource, launch the studio, and we are now in. So there's a lot of stuff in here, but generally the first thing you'll ever want to do is get yourself a notebook going. So in the top left corner, I'm going to go to notebooks. And what we'll need to do is load some files in here. Now they do have some sample files, like how to use Azure ML. So if we just quickly go through here, maybe we'll want to look at something like MS-NIST here. And we'll go ahead and open this one. And maybe we'll just go ahead and clone this, and we'll just clone it over here. Okay, and the idea is that we want to get this notebook running, and so notebooks have to be backed by some kind of compute. So up here it says no compute found, and etc. So what we can do here, and I'm just going to go back to my files. Oh, it went back there for me. But what I'm going to do is go all the way down. Actually, I'll just expand this up here, makes it a bit easier. Close this tab out. But what we'll do is go down to compute, and here we have our 4 types of compute. So compute instances is when we're running notebooks. Compute clusters is when we're doing training. Inference clusters is when we have a inference pipeline. And then attached compute is bringing things like HD Insights or Databricks into here. But for compute instances is what we need. We'll get ahead and go new. You'll notice we have the option between CPU and GPU. GPU is much more expensive, so it's like 90 cents per hour. For a notebook, we do not need anything super powerful. Notice it'll say here, development on notebooks, IDEs, lightweight testing. Here it says classical ML model training, auto ML pipelines, etc. So I want to make this a bit cheaper for us here because we're going to be using the notebook to run cognitive services, and those cost next to nothing. Like they don't take much compute power. And for some other ones, we might do something a bit larger. But for this is good enough. So I'll go ahead and hit next. I'm just going to say my notebook instance here. We'll go ahead and hit create. And so we're just going to have to wait for that to finish creating and running. And when it is, I'll see you back here in a moment. All right, so after a short little wait there, it looks like our server is running. And you can even see here, it shows you can launch in Jupyter Labs, Jupyter VS Code, RStudio, or the terminal. But what I'm going to do is go back all the way to our notebooks just so we have some consistency here. And I want you to notice that it's now running on this compute. If it's not, you can go ahead and select it. And it also loaded in Python 3.6. There is 3.8 right now. It's not a big deal which one you use, but that is the kernel, like how it will run this stuff. Now this is all interesting, but I don't want to run this right now. What I want to do is get those cognitive services into here. So what we can do is just go up here and we'll choose editors and edit in Jupyter Lab. And what that should do is open up a new tab here. Is it opening? If it's not opening, what we can do is go to compute. Sometimes it's a bit more responsive if we just click there. It's the same way of getting to it. I don't know why, but just sometimes that link doesn't work when you're in the notebook. And what we can do is, while we're in here now, we can see that this is where this example project is, okay? But what we want to do is get those cognitive services in here. So I don't know if I showed it to you yet, but I have a repository. I just got to go find it. It's somewhere on my screen. Here it is. Okay, so I have a repo called the free AZ9. Free AZ9. It should be AI 900. I think I'll go ahead and change that, or that is going to get confusing. Okay. So what I want you to do here is we'll get this loaded in. So this is a public directory. I'm just thinking there's a couple ways we can do it. We can go and use the terminal to grab it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go download the zip. And this is just one of the easiest ways to install it. And we need to place it somewhere. So here are my downloads. And I'm just going to drag it out here. Okay. And what we'll do is upload that there. So I can't remember if it lets you upload entire folders. We'll give it a go, see if it lets us. Maybe rename this to the free AZ or AI 900 there. We'll say open. Yeah, so it's individual files. So it's not that big of a deal, but we can go ahead and select it like that. And maybe I'll just make a new folder in here. We'll say this cognitive services. Okay. And what we'll do here is just keep on uploading some stuff. So we have assets. So I have a couple loose files there. And I know we have crew. Oops. We'll have crew. Oops. Sometimes it's not as responsive. We want OCR. I believe we have one called movie reviews. So we'll go into OCR here and upload the files that we have. So we have a few files there. And we'll go back a directory here. And I know movie reviews are just static files. And we have an objects folder. So we will go back here to objects. And then we'll go back and to crew, and we need a folder called Wharf, a folder called Crusher, a folder called Data. And so for each of these, we have some images. I think we're on Wharf, right? Yep, we are. Okay, great. So we will quickly upload all these. Oh, well, technically, we don't really need to upload any of these. Well, these images we don't, but I'm going to put them here anyway. I just remembered that these we just upload directly to the service. But because I'm already doing it anyway, I'm just going to put them here, even though we're not going to do anything with them. All right, and so now we are all set up to do some cognitive services. So I'll see you in the next video. All right, so now that we have our work environment set up, what we can do is go ahead and get cognitive services hooked up, because we need that service in order to interact with it. Because if we open up any of these, you're going to notice we have a cognitive key and endpoint that we're going to need. So what I want you to do is go back to your Azure portal, and at the top here, we'll type in cognitive services. Now the thing is that all these services are individualized, but at some point they did group them together, and you're able to use them through a unified key and API endpoint. That's what this is, and that's the way we're going to do it. So we'll say add, and it brought us to the marketplace. So I'm just going to type in cognitive services, and then just click this one here, and we'll hit create. And we'll make a new one here. I'm just going to call it my cog services. Say OK. I prefer to be in US East. I will leave it in US West. It's fine. And so in here, we'll just say my cog services. And if it doesn't like that, I'll just put some numbers in. There we go. We'll do standard SO. We will be charged something for that. Let's go take a look at the pricing. So you can see that the pricing is quite variable here, but it's like you'd have to do 1,000 transactions before you are billed. So I think we're going to be okay for billing. We'll check boxes here. We'll go down below. It's telling us about responsible AI notice. Sometimes services will actually have you checkbox it, but in this case, it just tells us there. And we'll go ahead and hit create. And I don't believe this took very long, so we'll give it a second here. Yep, it's all deployed. So we'll go to this resource here. And what we're looking for are our keys and endpoints. And so we have 2 keys and 2 endpoints. We only need a single key. So I'm going to copy this endpoint over. We're going to go over to Jupyter Lab, and I'm just going to paste this in here. I'm just going to put it in all the ones that need it. So this one needs one. This one needs one. This one needs one. And this one needs one. And we will show the key here. Well, I guess it doesn't show, but it copies. Of course, I will end up deleting my key before you ever see it, but this is something you don't want to share publicly. And usually you don't want to embed keys directly into a notebook, but this is the only way to do it. So this is how it is with Azure. So yeah, all our keys are installed. Going back to the cognitive services, nothing super exciting here, but it does tell us what services work with it. You'll see there's an asterisk beside custom vision because we're going to access that through another app. Yeah, cognitive services is all set up, and so that means we are ready to start doing some of these labs, okay?